Well, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. We'll begin tonight's meeting. We'll begin with a word of prayer, and then we'll honor our flags. If you would, please pray with me. Our Father in heaven, thank you for this day. Thank you for the wonderful community that you've blessed us all with, and it's a pleasure to live, work, and serve here. It's a pleasure to handle the city's business this evening. We ask for your wise guidance as we do that. And Lord, we ask that you would pour your blessings out on our community for prosperity, and Lord, we ask that you would send rain. And I ask these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in honoring our country's flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute
The flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
With that, our meeting is called to order. Ms. Reyes, could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Bryant,
Here.
Commissioner Bryant, Commissioner Porter, Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Casals,
Here.
Commissioner Garza,
Here.
Commissioner Rowley,
Here.
Commissioner Paula, here, Mayor Morris.
Here. Thank you, Ms. Reyes. Appreciate that. Commissioners, next is approval of the agenda, and I would like to ask if I can have, unless there's any objections, I'd like to take number 3 out of consent and move it to new business.
I'll move for approval with that change.
Second.
Okay. Motion to approve from Commissioner Garza, second from Commissioner Paula. If we could have a roll call, please. I'm sorry. We're not doing a roll call. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda with the one change. Commissioners, please vote. With 2 commissioners absent at the moment, we have 6 in favor, none opposed, and the motion is carried, and we've approved tonight's agenda. Next is approval of minutes, and we have 2 sets of minutes to consider approving this evening. The first are the minutes from the Thursday, May 19th meeting, which is a regular commission meeting, and those minutes are in your packet. You've had the opportunity to review them. Are there corrections?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Okay, motion for approval of the May 19th regular city commission meeting minutes came from Commissioner Casals, second from Mayor Pro Tem Bryant. Commissioners, please vote. And the vote is unanimous. The motion is carried. Next are the minutes from the Thursday, May 26th meeting, which was a special commission meeting. And you've had the opportunity to review those minutes. Were there any corrections?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve the minutes from the May 26th special meeting from Commissioner Garza, second from Commissioner Rowley. Commissioners, please vote. We have 5 in favor, 1 abstention. The motion is carried, and the minutes have been approved. Thank you. Next is recognition of visitors, and we will be hearing from and presenting to several of our visitors in the next section of the agenda, but I did want to just take a moment and welcome everyone to tonight's City Commission meeting, those members of the public that have decided to join us this evening. Thank you and welcome. And I also want to acknowledge and mention that we have folks that watch online, and we want to thank you for your interest in your city government, and thank you for participating. Next is proclamations, awards, and presentations, and we have a handful of presentations planned this evening. The first is presentation of keys to the city to Miss Rodeo, New Mexico, Jamie Middaugh, and New Mexico State Fair Rodeo Queen, Deanne Guthrie. And did we have Ms. Reyes, do we have someone that, with the group that's going to, is Renee Guthrie here?
Guthrie?
She's not here? Well, how about this? queens. If you would, come on up and let's hear from you, and in whichever order you prefer.
Well, good evening. My name is Deanne Guthrie. I'm the 2020 to 2022 New Mexico State Fair Queen, and I actually live here in Clovis, New Mexico, so didn't have a very far drive to come here this weekend. So I'm just so glad that I was able to come here and actually get a key to the city. I've been queening all my life, and this is the first title that's actually been able to let me get a key to the city, and so it's going to be an honor to be able to receive one of those from my hometown.
Awesome.
Hi everyone, my name is Jamie Middaugh. I am the Miss Rodeo New Mexico 2022. I'm from Las Cruces, New Mexico. This is my second year representing the state here in Clovis, and this has got to be like one of my funnest places to go. Thank you for having me. Sorry, excuse me. I just came from Alaska, so I'm a little sick. The weather change kind of got to me.
Uh-oh.
Thank you.
Who else do we have here?
I'm Lily Gonzalez. I'm the Little Buckaroo Junior Princess.
Well, hello and welcome.
I'm Michelle DeFore. I'm the Little Buckaroo Rodeo Princess.
Welcome.
I'm Michaela Bicker. I'm the Little Buckaroo Rodeo Queen.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
I'm Savannah Burker, the 2022 Rodeo Princess.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate you all. And Ms. Guthrie and Ms. Middaugh, if you would, could we have you come back? I recognized Ms. Guthrie's name when I saw the agenda published and thought I knew who she was, and I was right. And as she mentioned, she's a local girl and representing our community as the State Fair Queen, and I just think that that's incredible. And how long did you say you have been doing this?
So I've been holding queen title since I was 7 years old, and I am 23 now, so it's been a while.
Awesome. You've made a life of it. Well, we're so proud of you and proud to have you representing our city at the State Fair as the State Fair Queen.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And Ms. Middaugh, you said you're from Las Cruces. How long have you been doing rodeo and that type of thing?
So I've actually rodeoed my entire life. I didn't get into queening until 2019. So I'm not as experienced as her, but I love it a lot.
Yeah, great. Well, farm and ranch and that kind of thing is woven into the heritage of Clovis and this part of the state. And so, thanks for what you're doing to, raise the awareness of that. Certainly the rodeo, Pioneer Days Rodeo, it being the 50th anniversary and having it back after a couple of years, the community's very excited about it. And so we appreciate what you're doing to participate in it. And I do want to give each of you the key to the city. And, when I think about Ms. Jamie Middaugh and being the state rodeo queen, I got to imagine you spend a lot of time on the road.
Absolutely. I was briefly in Alaska representing my state in the Extreme Bulls event, and I spent 5 days up there, and it was a big culture shock. I mean, the moose are way bigger than you would expect. I saw one that I thought was huge, and apparently it was only a baby. So I do travel a lot. As soon as I get home from this rodeo, I'll actually be going to Wyoming and then back to Santa Fe, and my summer is jam-packed with rodeos. So.
Well, in all that traveling, you must get homesick, and you probably don't get home often enough. So by giving you the key to the city, we want you to consider Clovis as home. And since you have the key, you'd be welcome here anytime.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
And I'll be down to hand it to you in just a moment. And Ms. Guthrie, as I said, we are so proud to have you representing our city and proud for you to have the honor of being the State Fair Queen. And that truly makes you an ambassador of Clovis, and you're off representing us, and I got to imagine that your life and career is on a trajectory that you're going to go a lot of places, and I want you to have the key to the city so you never forget where home is and that you can come home whenever you're ready.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And can you all do the famous wave? Thank you. Thank you.
Can you get all together, the three of them? Yeah, there you go.
We once again do thank the rodeo royalty for being here this evening, and we welcome you to stay if you like, but we would also completely understand if you need to get out to the event center, to the rodeo. But thank you so much for joining us. Welcome, Commissioner Porter. Next in the agenda, we have a presentation planned. It is a presentation of proclamation proclaiming June 12th, 2022 as Women Veterans Day. And to share with us on this evening, we are privileged to have Major Donna Labatt, retired, here to tell us about Women's Veterans Day.
Well, I think the proclamation said it extraordinarily well, but there are a couple of points that I would like to bring out because the involvement of women in the armed services is very long and very unacknowledged. So things like this, events like this, to have a proclamation on this particular day is very important. But I wanted to bring up just a couple of facts that you don't know, probably don't know, because there are so very many. One of them are called the Hello Girls. Is there anyone here who has ever heard of the Hello Girls? The Hello Girls were a group of 200 women selected from the thousands who applied to operate the telephone system in Europe during World War I. They were uniformed. They were required to render appropriate salutes to superior officers. But when they left that service, they did not receive any kind of recognition or any veterans benefits, regardless of the fact that they were in sometimes great danger. Another group of women that you may not think about, but you perhaps have heard about, were the ambulance drivers during World War I. They were exposed to the same difficulties that our soldiers were. They were exposed to gas. They were on the front lines, exposed to all of the bombing that was appropriate, that occurred. So they again were uniformed, required to render appropriate honors to senior personnel, but came back home with no benefits. Another group that you perhaps have heard about are the WASPs. These were the Women's Air Service pilots. There were approximately, I believe, 1,200 of them, out again of thousands of women who applied for those positions. Some of them lost their lives while flying airplanes in a ferrying service. They did not go into combat, but they ferried aircraft from one base to another. And in fact, some of them actually provided training to those men who would go on to be pilots, and some of that training actually took place in property right near Portales. So those are just some additional facts that I wanted all of you to know to begin to fully appreciate the incredible contributions that women have made to our armed forces. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you, Major Labatt, and thank you for your service. Were you stationed at Cannon?
Yes, in fact, I got to Cannon in '93 and retired in '97.
I wondered if maybe Cannon was how we got you.
Indeed, that is how you got me.
So you decided to make Clovis home after being stationed here?
Not so much after being stationed here, it was more that this was a convenient location for other family to reach them and for them to reach us.
Outstanding. Well, wonderful. And we do appreciate the additional facts about the service of women in the United States military, and I would like to share the proclamation. However, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, I'd pause and give you the opportunity if you had comments.
Just a short comment. You know, appreciate your service and all the women that served in the armed forces over the years, and we just appreciate everything you did. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Again, thank you for your service and for bringing this to us as a way of remembering those women that serve in our country. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Very well. I'll share the proclamation. Whereas June 12, 1948 marks the date that women were officially allowed to serve as regular and permanent members of the armed forces in the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and Air Force. And whereas women have always played a role in the United States military conflicts, beginning their service as washerwomen and eventually presiding over massive hospitals as Civil War nurses. And whereas it took decades for the restrictions placed on their service capacity to change, but eventually women were able to participate in the armed forces during peacetime. And whereas by 1970, women's roles in the military expanded, finally allowing them to rise to command roles in non-combat units. And whereas it was not until 2013 that women achieved full status in the military when they were granted the right to serve in direct ground combat roles. And whereas there are 16,600 women veterans in New Mexico, which is 11% of the state's veteran population. And whereas we owe an inexpressible debt to our present and past servicewomen who have selflessly served to protect our freedoms. Their unquestioned loyalty and valor will undoubtedly inspire future generations. Now, therefore, I, Mike Morris, Mayor of Clovis, and on behalf of this City Commission, declare June 12th, 2022 as Women Veterans Day in the City of Clovis. Commissioners, I believe that does it for presentations this evening, so we'll move on to receipts of petitions and communications. Of course, this is the section in the agenda where if a citizen has anything to bring before the commission, they'd have the opportunity to do that. However, we'll begin our communications this evening with a plan presentation. That is Economic Development Plan Update from TIP Strategies. Mr. Tom Stellman is joining us, and we're glad to have you, sir. Please come forward if you like, and we'll give you the floor.
All right, thank you. My name is Tom Stellman with TIP Strategies based in Austin, Texas. Our firm does economic development, strategic planning, and I appreciate you guys giving us a moment to give you a quick update on where we are on the project that we're working for the city of Clovis. And I don't know if you guys needed to say anything or you just let me run with this.
Well,
However you,
Ms. Burrows, if you have something to add, you were leaning in.
Just thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. Mr. Stillman has joined us here in Clovis. You hired him on December the 16th, 2021 to perform an economic development plan for the community, and he's here with us this evening to give us a report. And we've had a very busy 2.5 days of meetings with various businesses in the community. So thank you, Tom.
yeah, and we're about, just to give you an update, we're about halfway through our process. We're hoping to finish end of July and August, and so we've been doing a lot of learning and listening up to this point, and I want to thank all of you. I know we were able to do interviews with all the council members, but we also did a number of roundtable interviews of different groups within the community. And also just a reminder, we're also doing a community survey, and I think it's posted on the city's, all their social media and website, because we think it's really important to hear from the community about what they think the priorities are for economic development in Clovis. But I have to say, it's been really hard because of COVID and having to do things remotely. And this is my favorite part of what I do, is to be able to come into the community and discover all the jewels and all the things that are there that you know, I've read about, but now I got to see in person. And so it's exceeded my expectations so far, but I will say Claire and Justin have worn me out over the last 3 days. And I got to see several of you early this morning, 7 o'clock. But on this trip, I've been able to go out to Cannon Air Force Base and get a tour there. We've done a lot of work in communities that have military installations, but each time I go, it's different. Obviously, the missions are different, and there's a lot going on there. We also had opportunities to meet with Cummins here and Southwest Cheese and several other major employers. And then you know, some of the jewels that I always pick out, just because I'm always looking for what's unique in a community and what's special about that community. And you guys have so many different things, from bullet bobs to the baby camel at the zoo. You know, I think that was Claire had a special interest in that, so that was like first on our list. But the recording history, the agricultural history, everything you have going on here, there's a lot of great stories to tell. You know, a lot of great stories to tell. So in our business right now, you know, we're fortunate to do this kind of work around the country. There are several issues. Finding, you know, qualified talent and workforce is a big challenge, kind of post-COVID. Not everybody has come back to work as fast as we would hope they would. So but you know, we've heard that here in Clovis, but you guys are not alone. And I think you guys actually weathered some of these, you know, the Great Recession and some of COVID better than a lot of communities that I've worked in. So, you know, that's been a real upside for us, an upside for you guys. Supply chain has been a big challenge right now. If you guys are building a house or ordering parts, you know what the challenges are across the country, but I know you guys in Clovis also suffer from that. I was fortunate this morning to meet with the steering committee and share some ideas about, you know, things that we're thinking about, from the types of industries that would make sense here to ways that you can better train your workforce, redevelop your downtown, and some of the other ideas. So if you guys have any questions, I'm open. Like I said, we're about halfway through the process. We're now at that point where we're going to start bringing ideas to the group and getting their feedback so that we build out a plan that is customized for Clovis.
Very good. Well, we're certainly glad to have you in Clovis. We hope that it hasn't been too rigorous.
No.
Dragging you around to all of the sites and all of the different things. We
They
hope
had
that
time to make up for Mayor.
Very good. Very good. Well, appreciate the work that you're doing. I am, and I know these commissioners are as well, very excited about the plan. I hope to you know, not only see the plan adopted by this commission and the city, but, you know, either officially or unofficially around the community, whether it be the county or the chamber or Main Street. And I just feel like that this plan will bring focus to our efforts and make us more efficient, and very excited about the plan. You said it'll be August when that's prepared? Very good. Mayor Pro Tem or Commissioners, do you have comments or questions?
No, not this time. I look forward to seeing the end result.
Same here.
Yep. Awesome. Very much so. And you mentioned the survey. I'm glad you did. I wanted to bring it up once again for the public's benefit. Hopefully, we have people fill that survey out. When does that close?
I think it closes
June the 13th.
June 13th.
June 13th. So we're nearing the end of the survey. So I encourage the public to find that survey on the city's website and complete it. I enjoyed completing it. I thought it was great. I shared it with a lot of friends that hopefully did as well. Appreciate the way that you're interviewing different parts of the community and working with the steering committee, I'm confident that we will have a plan that's been arrived at through a collaborative effort that's owned by this community. So thank you for your work.
You bet, you bet. And if you guys have any other questions at any time, feel free to reach out. So
Very
thank
well.
you very much.
Yep, appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you.
Mr. Howalt, did you have a communication for the commission? I had a feeling you did.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be in front of you this evening and getting to introduce to you our new IT Director, Steve Rickman, and making him come out from behind the curtain where the IT staff usually likes to stay, so it's always fun to drag them out here. Steve comes to us after a very successful career with Plateau. He served there for 22 years, and most recently as their Information Services Manager. Obviously, coming from Plateau, it was former Commissioner Robinson's loss, but the city of Clovis's gain. He actually started with us on the 31st of this month, but prior to that, he was actually on the team from Plateau that's currently going through all of our servers and systems and looking at what our IT needs are and helping to develop that plan for us. So he got to see into the system prior to being here, so I know that he's hit the ground running and looking forward to what he can do with our IT department. So just want to take the opportunity to introduce him to you this evening, as well as allow him to say anything that he would like to say. So thank you, Mayor.
Great. Hello and welcome, Mr. Rickman.
Thank you. No. All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Great introduction. Is there anyone that has something to bring before the commission this evening? The way I saw Captain Romero making his way this way, I thought maybe he had something to share. Good evening, Captain. Glad you're here. Thank you. I guess while we're in communications, I'd just take the opportunity to remind all of you, but also remind the public that there is an election taking place on Tuesday, the primary election, and I believe that early voting continues through Saturday at the early voting locations, and so I just encourage the public, as I'm sure all of you do, to get involved, get out and vote. And anything else under communications? Very well. We will move on then to the consent agenda. As you know, this item is placed on the agenda so that the commission, by unanimous consent, can designate those routine agenda items that they wish to approve or acknowledge with one motion. If any proposal does not meet with the approval of all commission members, or if a citizen so requests, that item will be heard when reached under the regular agenda. Once again, we did remove item 3 from what the printed agenda reads, and so that will leave 5 items in the consent agenda. The first is the motion to place. The second is request for approval of adoption of ordinance number 2172-2022 relating to the Economic Incentive Board and amending existing code sections. Item 3 is request for approval of letter of support for mental health resources application for Plateau Rural Communities for a community sponsorship grant in the amount of $5,000. Item 4, request for approval to appoint Gail Tarson, member of the public, and Freddie Bryant, member from Operator of Industries, primarily serving tourists, to serve on the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board. And the 5th item is the motion to approve or acknowledge. I would entertain a motion to place the indicated items on the consent agenda by unanimous vote.
So moved.
Second.
Motion for placing the items on the consent agenda from Commissioner Paula. Second came from Commissioner Jones. Commissioners, please vote. And the vote is unanimous. The motion is carried and the items have been placed. I would now entertain a motion to approve or acknowledge all items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Jones, second from Commissioner Garza. Commissioners, please vote. And the vote is unanimous, 7-0, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We will move on to introduction and adoption of resolutions and ordinances. We have 4 items there this evening. They are all similar. However, they all pertain to private property, and so we will take each one one at a time and deal with them. The first is request for approval of adoption of resolution number 3124-2022 pertaining to a ruined, damaged, or dilapidated building and authorizing abatement by demolition of such building and related debris from within the city of Clovis. The address of abatement is 2025 Hammett. And to advise on this, Building Safety Director, Mr. Darren Roach.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. The property here at 2025, it is owned by Ralph J. Lopez. As you can see in your packet, it's a trailer house. There's no windows, the ceiling's gone out of it. It's in dire need of demolition. I can stand for any questions.
Okay, very good. And if approved, this resolution would give Mr. Lopez 15 days to put together a plan for either removing it or rectifying the situation himself, or the city would take the action to.
Correct. He has 15 days to get back with us to either make a plan to do something or to do it himself.
Okay, and these items make it to this point because the property owner has been non-responsive to an extent, or has there been communication with Mr. Lopez on this?
No.
Okay, all right, very good. Commissioners, Mayor Pro Tem, comments, questions?
I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve from Commissioner Paula, second from Commissioner Jones. In the absence of further debate, commissioners, please vote. And the vote is unanimous. The motion is carried. We'll move on to item 2, request for approval of adoption of resolution number 3125-2022 pertaining to a ruined, damaged, or dilapidated building and authorizing abatement by demolition of such building and related debris from within the city of Clovis. The address for this one is 118 Lydia. Mr. Roach.
So this one here was on fire. We removed the house directly north a few months ago. This one here burned. It's beyond repair. It also needs to be. It's owned by Jose Griego.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Mayor Pro Tem, commissioners, comments, questions?
I have a question, Mr. Roach. What is the average cost for us, the city, to demo such building?
They range between 12 and 20,000 usually.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Casaus, second from Commissioner Garza. Any further debate? Hearing and seeing none, commissioners, please vote. The vote is unanimous. The motion is carried. Thank you. Next is request for approval of adoption of resolution number 3126-2022 pertaining to a ruined, damaged, or dilapidated building and authorizing abatement by demolition of such building and related debris from within the city of Clovis. The address for abatement is 820 Axtell. Mr. Roach, what can you share with us on that one?
This one here was also burned. Public Works was actually called out on this one to knock it down into itself because it had a basement. So they kind of pushed it all into one pile. The owner, they've done nothing so far to do anything about cleaning it up. So we're going to work on trying to get that accomplished.
So you're trying to get that done. Well, we thank you for doing that. In each of these cases, while there is some expense to the city or to the citizens, as Commissioner Porter pointed out, it does improve the neighborhood in each case and provides the opportunity for something good to happen there next. So any questions or debate on this one, Mayor Pro Tem, commissioners?
I move for approval.
Second.
I do have a question. How soon can, after making a decision here, how soon are we going to be able to move this debris out of there? To me, it's a safety issue there. So
This one we can kind of move up priority, but we still got to give them the 15 days, you know,
So-
but we can get this one prioritized.
Okay, we had a motion for approval on this resolution from Commissioner Jones, or excuse me, Was that the order it went in? We had motion for approval from Commissioner Jones, second from Commissioner Paula. Any further debate? Very well, let's vote on resolution number 3126-2022. It's unanimous, the motion is carried. Thank you. Next and last in this section this evening is request for approval of adoption of resolution number 3127-2022 pertaining to damaged or dilapidated building and authorizing abatement by demolition of such building and related debris from within the city of Clovis. Address for abatement or of abatement is 1005 East Brady. Mr. Roach.
This one here has been vacant for several years. Our department's also cleaned the property several times. We very seldom do we get any response from them whatsoever, but it's in dire need of being abated, as you can tell by the photos.
Very good. Okay. This is the single-wide manufactured home?
Correct. That's on Brady.
Gotcha.
Mr. Roach, who owns this property?
It says Paradise Rentals.
Make a motion to, yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Motion for approval of resolution number 3127-2022 from Mayor Pro Tem Bryant, second from Commissioner Garza. Any further debate? Hearing and seeing none, please vote. And the vote is unanimous. The motion is carried. Mr. Roach, thank you. Nothing to deal with under unfinished business this evening, so we'll move on to new business where we have what was item 3 in the consent as the first item we'll take up there, and that is request for approval of contract services with Central Curry Soil and Water Conservation District for service year 2 of 3. And I wanted to take that out of the consent so that I could provide what I hope is a sufficient update on this. As you know, you've appointed me to serve on the board of the Ogallala Land and Water Conservancy, which is a newly formed trust, about a year old at this point. The contract for service is with Central Curry Soil and Water Conservation District, which is a government entity, and they in the early ons were identified as the eligible entity for a REPI grant that is really the purpose of the formation of Ogallala Land and Water Conservancy. Central Curry Soil and Water never had the ability or the resources to execute on the plans of the land trust, which I'll get into in just a moment. And so there is that relationship. I just wanted to remind you of. This is a government-to-government contract with Central Curry. However, the work that's being done is being carried out by a land trust called Ogallala Land and Water Conservancy. Ogallala Land and Water Conservancy is the execution arm for REPI grant funds as well as RCPP grant funds. REPI is Readiness and Environmental Protection Integration. This is a Department of Defense grant. Cannon Air Force Base has leveraged these grants in the past for things such as encroachment easements around Melrose Bombing Range and the like. Well, it's been determined by the Department of Defense that these REPI grants could be used for all types of installation resiliency, to include energy and water and those kinds of things. Or actually, I think I misspoke when I said energy, but certainly water. As we face the water challenges on the high plains that you're all aware of, you're aware of the many things that we're working on to address and meet those challenges. That's a common concern of our neighbors at Cannon Air Force Base. Their installation resiliency is threatened by the possibility of a questionable water supply in the future. So As you're all aware, the Ogallala Aquifer is being mined at a rate that's unsustainable, and we have to do things to address that. The major thing that the city of Clovis is doing is the partnership that we have in the Water Utility Authority and the construction of the Ute Pipeline, where we're going to convey surface water to this area to supplement our municipal water needs. However, if you look at our water challenges, now and in the future, we will be glad we have all available options on the table. And the grants being pulled together by Ogallala and executed on are aiming to stop the agricultural pumping, the mining of the aquifer that's taking place out in the area northwest of Cannon Air Force Base. Obviously, the proximity to Cannon Air Force Base is key in this. That's, the base is concerned about the groundwater in the area. And so to the extent we help with that, we're helping our friends at Cannon with their installation resiliency. And again, keeping all options on the table. If we can conserve groundwater, let's do it. That would be the spirit in which Ogallala is doing this work. And so they came to the city a year or so ago, and you approved, actually we approved because I broke the tie, and that's why I wanted to discuss this evening. We approved an agreement that would involve the city providing up to $150,000 a year each year for 3 years to be used for administrative costs. So I wanted to update you on, just kind of generally the progress of Ogallala, but I also wanted to point out that they came to us a year ago and said that they're doing something new that's never been done before, and they needed the city's support. I think they absolutely did. They needed the possibility of the $150,000 in administrative expenses covered in order to provide a safety net to get going. But they also needed the city's support for such a thing, and I think it was appropriate that we are involved in supporting this. But I wanted to let you know, on a time and material basis, the last report I received, which I believe these numbers would have been through some point in May, but the city has been billed of the 150 about 63,800, leaving 86,200 effectively on the table, if you will. So they've done what they've said they would do, and they've operated very efficiently and inexpensively. And while we approved up to 150 for them, they didn't find things to bill us that 154. They've truly used it wisely and as good stewards of the city's funds, and in appreciation for the city's support. So I just wanted to point that out, that it's not actually costing as much as it could have. And then the other thing is, what are the results? What success are they having, right? Well, there are letters of intent from a number of landowners to sign a lease. That lease language is being worked on by the Air Force attorneys at this point, but we have willing landowners ready to sign a 3-year lease of their water. Okay. Now, what do we mean when we say water? How much are we talking about? Well, in order to assess the water in the area northwest of Cannon, belonging to the landowners that wished to participate and expressed interest to participate by letter, the wells were metered, and the process for metering the wells involved turning the wells on and running the water for 7 days, and then metering the wells in order to get a realistic and an accurate read. And at this point, the wells that would fall into this 3-year lease amount to 7,559 gallons per minute of water. Now, I would point out that that's less than was estimated to be out there some number of years ago when the city undertook the work of a water assurance plan, and there were some estimates made about, you know, the gallons per minute that may exist out in this area. And this is considerably less, which I think both speaks to the integrity of the assessment process, but it also speaks to the need and why we're doing this, why we're trying to rise up to meet the challenges that we have with water. If you take the 7,559 gallons per minute and you work that out, assuming pumping happening about 9 months a year, there's over 9,000 acre feet of water being conserved annually. With the 3-year lease, that's over 27,000 acre feet. This, and I'm talking about a 3-year lease because the RCPP grant funding is still coming into place. The excuse me. What'd you do, Commissioner? In any case, I wanted to just, the reason we're talking about a 3-year lease is because this is a new work. And Ogallala is in the process, under the mentorship of a Texas land trust that has done similar type work. Ogallala is pulling together all of the available funds and programs that could benefit these landowners that agree to stop mining the aquifer. And so the 3-year lease would get it stopped right now, and then give 3 years with which to put together longer-term deals, longer-term conservation easements that would protect this water in perpetuity. And obviously, implied by all of this is that, you know, conserving that water means that it may be, or that it would be available for municipal use at some point in the future. There are no plans at this point to bring that water into the city system, and it may not be that I'm around and talking about it when that part happens. But if we don't conserve it now, it won't be there. It won't be an option on the table for what's going on. So a year ago, I had questions, and many of you did, about this work. I got to tell you that tonight, if I had to, I would cast the tie-breaking vote to keep us in this agreement, because conserving groundwater needs to be a priority. We need all options on the table with water. And as I stated earlier, this supports Cannon's installation resiliency and their mission readiness. And for those reasons, I'd ask for your approval on this, but I would also stand for any questions that you may have, Mayor Pro Tem or Commissioners.
Yeah, I don't have any questions, Mayor. It's a good explanation, but, you know, water conservation is all about preserving the groundwater in the aquifer. And I think this program has so far been successful. And so I would definitely support it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, I have a question, just
Yep.
because this 3-year lease is kind of news to me. Was that always the plan to issue?
It wasn't always the plan, and I'd have to go back in meeting minutes to tell you when that became part of the plan. But it has to do with the availability of the RCPP funds that have been awarded, but not made available for use. And so the RCPP is committed to over $6 million at this point to match REPI funds in those amounts. However, perhaps because of funding cycle, I'm not sure, those funds aren't available yet. The funds being used to enter into the lease agreements on the water are REPI funds, and Ogallala actually received state funding in the last session. ARPA funds that the state had in the amount of I believe it's 3.4 million.
So if they sign this 3-year lease to stop pumping, do they then, after the 3 years, have the option to back out?
Yeah, Commissioner, great question, and as I understand it, yes. I mean, because until they have a long-term deal to look at, until they understand what long-term you know, conservation easements would look like and all of those things. I don't know how they could be bound, you know, now to something in perpetuity. So the work between now and you know, 36 months from now is crucial, right? In order to pull all of that together and give landowners something to consider, right? But there will be a combination of conservation easements that are secured with RCPP, which is a USDA grant program, and then the REPI funds will be used as well. And then there's other grant programs that are being explored to in a way package for landowners. Look, here are all of the state, federal programs. Here's, you know, other grant programs that may be available and may apply on your land due to, you know, the unique characteristics of your land. If you have a playa lake, then here's another grant opportunity, you know. So that work is important between now and 3 years from now, certainly.
So do you know, I guess, what portion of the, I know there's the REPI funds and the RCPP funds, but what portion of those total funds is being spent on these 3-year leases? What's going to be left to negotiate the permanent?
So with both REPI and RCPP, it's my understanding that the Land Conservancy can go back again and again. And, you know, Canon is interested in facilitating that, reapplying to REPI over and over again, right? So I don't know what the maximum amount is for funds, but currently Ogallala, now these aren't funds that have been awarded and are available for use, but these are funds that have been allocated, and it's around 15 million, okay? And the amount being used on the 3-year lease is $4.5 million.
Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner.
So after the 3-year that the contract is up, can they come back to us for more money?
For this agreement that we're talking about? I mean, sure, I think they could. I have a feeling that that by this time next year, they will be politely saying they would like to end the agreement. Because what I see happening with Ogallala Land Conservancy, Water and Land Conservancy, is it's standing on its own in less than a year from now. Any other questions or thoughts?
Yeah, Mayor, I have one. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this to a certain degree, but you'd mentioned there was up to $150,000 committed to them by the city.
Correct.
Of which they came to and pulled a portion of that.
Correct.
Well, obviously, we want them to spend it wisely, and I'm curious, do we review what the billing is for, and do we have some place or something in place that we can go back and say, hey, you're...
Yeah, Commissioner Porter, yeah, great question, and I may actually ask Mr. Howalt if he wants to chime in, but the city manager manages all of these all of the contracts that the city has, and he certainly manages this one, and the updates that I get from both sides, sitting on the Ogallala board, as well as, you know, any times I've visited with Mr. Howalt, that process of them submitting and receiving funds per the agreement has been operating very, very smoothly. But Mr. Howalt, anything to add?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Pro Tem, and Commissioners, and Commissioner Porter. The Mayor is absolutely correct. I receive monthly invoices from them, and as part of that, they give me a breakdown what those costs add up to, and so they're providing me receipts from other entities that they're working with, attorneys. They provide us receipts from if there's travel involved, so we do get a very detailed report to us on a monthly basis. And they also provide us a detail of the costs that are being shared with Curry County. So Curry County also committed to $150,000 up to $150,000 going towards this organization. And so we're making sure that those costs are split equally among the two organizations, and they have been, but we do receive very good invoicing.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for approval from Commissioner Jones and a second from Mayor Pro Tem Bryant. Any further debate? Hearing and seeing none, commissioners, please vote.
Mr. Mayor, my system is not working, so I will have to do a verbal vote when you're ready.
Commissioner Garza, can I have your vote, please?
That's a yes.
Thank you, sir. Is in, okay, very well, then that is, it's a unanimous vote, 7 in favor, none opposed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much, commissioners. We'll move on to what is now item 2, under new business. It is request for approval to apply for and accept, if awarded, the 2022 COPS Hiring Program Grant in the amount of $250,000, and I just figured out why Captain Romero is here. Captain Romero, welcome, sir.
I'm always around like a bad penny, sir.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, City Management. The Clovis Police Department is trying to apply for the 2022 Community-Oriented Policing Hiring Program for at least 2 new officers. The funding is, it's quite a bit, 75% of salaries, fringe benefits, with a maximum of $125,000 per officer over a 3-year period. So a 25% local match is required for this particular grant. The average salary and benefits for a Clovis police officer is approximately $82,036, which is about double the allotted grant, but the city would like to commit to another 49.3 to match those fundings to get those positions. The total amount needed to fund these 2 new police positions, salary and benefits, for the next 3 years is $492,216 with a request of $250 through the grant and a match of 49.3% at $242,216 through the city of Clovis. It allows for this to be paid out for about 3 years. There's an actual 5-year window because they understand that you're going to have to go through recruitment and get people through the academy. Trying to go over what it costs for one of us. We are in the multiple thousands. Right now I'm wearing roughly $3,500 worth of gear. My uniform alone is better than $120. I'm not even going to count my boots because I buy those myself because I've been wearing the same brand for 30 years. My armor's $1,000, my taser's $800, my pistol's $500, and that's not accounting for the training. Sending people to the academy is costing us a good chunk of money, and the amount of time, energy, and effort that the city and the Clovis Police Department put into each of these individuals before we even put them online and get them in touch with the community. Every little bit helps. It'll allow us to get these 2 positions, even though it's really hard to recruit in. But you can't stop. Our numbers are low for what we should have in the community. I've got documents from the 80s under Chief Chandler, where he was answering a lady, and our numbers aren't much better than that. And our city has grown exponentially since that time. So every time we have a little bit, we might as well try and accomplish it. It's what our families need. It's what our community needs, and we're hoping you consider it.
Well, thank you for that, and I 100% agree, and you certainly have my support on that, and just wonder, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, what questions would you have about this?
Have we applied for this program before, or has it been available before?
There was other programs back in the 90s that we were doing when we had the initiation of school resource officers when I was a really, really young cop. This doesn't come up very often, and we've never had the wherewithal. With the addition of Kelsey to the team at the city, the 1,000 hats we tend to wear, we can dump one off, and that's kind of nice. And this affords us an opportunity for her to actually bully us and force us to finish our paperwork in a timely fashion. So it has been available in the past as a grant system, but the amount of time, effort, and tracking has been daunting.
We have received it, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, in previous years, but not recently.
Very, very good. And Mr. Howalt, as far as the city identifying the source for our match, I mean, are we good on that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. We are.
Okay.
And so, I mean, anytime we're obviously trying to leverage every available dollar that we have. Obviously notice this program coming across because we're receiving notifications about grants pretty consistently now coming out of the federal government. And so we looked through those lists. This was one, obviously, that we felt we needed to apply for. And so we definitely taken the opportunity to do this. But from a funding standpoint, yes, we'll have it.
Outstanding. Wonderful. Anything else, Commissioners?
I think this is something that we really, really need, and thank you, Captain, for bringing it to us, and I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Commissioner Casals, and the second came from Commissioner Paula. Any further debate? Hearing and seeing none, Commissioners, please vote. Commissioner Garza, can I have your vote, please?
That's a yes. Thank you.
Sir?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And the vote is unanimous. The motion is carried. Thanks again, Captain Romero. Appreciate you, sir. Item 3 under new business is request for approval to name the new senior center to be located in Hillcrest Park as the Hillcrest Senior Life Center. Ms. Riggin, did you want to share with us on that tonight? And Major LeBlatt.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and Commissioners. And I would like to turn the floor over to Ms. Labatt. She serves as our Vice Chairperson on our Senior Services Committee, and she has some information that she'd like to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like you to know how we arrived at the name. I'm sure that is a point of curiosity for you. First, we went out with a survey to the community, asking the community what they think would be a good title. How do we call this center? So we got a number of responses from that, and we also had suggestion boxes in the local senior centers, asking the seniors themselves what names that they would like to have for their own center. And we took all of those responses. We had a committee of myself and a few of the members from the Senior Citizen Commission. And we sat down and looked at all of them and said, which ones do we want? And we evaluated some, I'm trying to remember now, was it 45? 44 different names that we had received. And we eliminated those that we thought that might have a unsavory interpretation to it. An uncouth interpretation, possibly. And so we finally settled on one that we thought really reflected Clovis and the location of the senior center, which is Hillcrest Park. And we came up with Hillcrest Senior Life Center because we want to focus on the lives of seniors and the activities that they can pursue and what the center is going to offer. So that is how we came up with the name Hillcrest Senior Life Center. And I put that forward to the commission for the approval, and if you have any questions, any further questions about how we arrived at the name, I'll be happy to try to respond to them.
Thank you, Ms. Labatt and Ms. Riggin. Appreciate that, and we may have some questions for you. I'm not sure. Comments, questions?
I'll just mention, you got 69.7% of the vote, so evidently everybody was in agreement.
Yes, it was a very popular response, yes.
Do you recall the last, the one that had the...
I knew someone was going to ask me that. I even thought about whether or not I should mention it, but no, I can't remember. Barbara, do you remember? The one that was a little bit unsavory that we felt was inappropriate?
There were several, so
They were several.
We don't need to utter those words here.
I'm getting to that point, so if I'm gonna be at this senior center one of these days, then I wanna make sure they don't call me names.
Yeah,
And I-
well, it was, we had you in mind, sir, we had you in mind.
Thank you.
We're all headed there, some of us sooner than others.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the name. I think that's a good name.
I
Second.
agree. Motion for approval and, or a motion for approval from Commissioner Casal, second from Commissioner Jones. Commissioners, what is before you is the naming of the new senior center, and that name will be Hillcrest Senior Life Center. Please vote. Commissioner Garza.
That's a yes, thank you.
Thank you. And the vote is unanimous. The motion is carried. It will be Hillcrest Senior Life Center.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. We will move on to reports of boards, officers, and committees. The Public Works Committee had a meeting on June 25th. Mayor Pro Tem, would you want to report on that?
Sure. We did have a meeting, and Public Works met and had an update from Mr. Roach and with building safety and the progress they're making on cleaning up properties around the city. And we appreciate everything they're doing. Also discussed the roadway prioritization list, which includes roadway projects will be coming to the commission for approval in the very near future. Had an update regarding robotics program for roadways within the city, and they had updates also from Mr. Howalt and also John King with Clovis Municipal Schools.
Very good. Look forward to the roadway prioritization, the discussion that you had there. So thanks
And
for
I
that.
will just mention from Commissioner Casals that MLK is going to be the number one
We'll
road
see.
on that. So
I watched the meeting back and I saw and heard the discussion was exactly that that it would be number one. So thanks for that report. Obviously, we had the special meeting that took place on May 26th, in which we approved the interim budget or the preliminary budget. I'll report on the Eastern New Mexico Water Utility Authority meeting, which took place on also on the 26th, and I would welcome Mayor Pro Tem or Commissioner Garza, either one or both, to correct me if I'm wrong or add to what I have to say. But we had, safe to say, the longest agenda ever for an authority meeting, but we managed to get through it. We had oath of office for two members. Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, you remember you just reappointed Mayor Pro Tem Bryant to serve on that board, and so he took the oath. The Mayor of Portales also took the oath, and Mayor of Elida, Deward Dixon, will be taking the oath at a future meeting he had to miss. We had the normal approval of monthly financials and so forth. The new business items included approval of the interim budget for FY23. Short version, the interim budget revenue or the budgeted revenue is 29.8. That's what we approved. However, we know because of all of the grant agreements that are being put together and that will come through here in the late summer, perhaps early fall, we will be making several amendments to the authority budget, and revenues, once everything is amended, could be between $220 and $230 million. So we are anticipating a very busy several years at the authority. The other agenda items included approval to post notice of intent for a sole source for services, legal services from Harmon, Barnett, and Morris. Our attorney is Cameron Barnett, and he is so well acquainted with the workings of the authority and the easement acquisition process and so forth that he's really the only person for the job, and so that's the reason for the sole source posting. We also approved the annual service agreement with the certified public accountants that serve the authority. We approved the contract with Dion Willoughby to perform the 22 audit. And we also approved the services agreement with RBC Capital, who you're familiar with, for a 4-year term. We also approved the establishment of a capital construction account. As you've heard me report many times, and as I just mentioned about the budget, there are large amounts of money coming in federal and state grants, and it's necessary, or we felt necessary, to establish a separate account for capital construction dollars. We also approved a couple of change orders. We approved 11 easement agreements. And lastly, we approved the Finished Water 1 bid package. And we'll be going out to bid on Finished Water 1, which is the 15.5-mile portion of the Ute pipeline that extends from northwest of Cannon Air Force Base out to the Grady area where the proposed treatment plant will be. And the timeline for that is right away, and the award by September 1st. So we're very excited to see that project moving forward. And in fact, the Utility Authority is engaged in some way or another in all phases of the project. There is alignment study and easement acquisition work underway all the way down to ALIDA. And we are nearing finalizing plans for the Texaco lateral. We are working on the portion that goes from Grady to the Caprock, and then have already engaged in the work that would go from the Caprock all the way to the reservoir. So this project is moving forward. The phrase "the train has left the station" has been used, but we are constructing the Ute pipeline, which is easily the most important piece of infrastructure for our city and this region. Any questions?
Good report. Well said.
I got a thumbs up from Commissioner Garza, so the report was good. We will move on, as I have lost the pages.
Mayor,
There we go. Future agenda items.
I can just say a
Yes.
quick comment. You're talking about the long agenda
Yes.
of the Water Authority, and I think with the progress of the project and the amount of funding that we continue to receive, most of these agendas that we see from now on are going to be pretty time-consuming, I believe.
Yes, they are. Yeah. You know, the former mayor and I had a chat right after I was elected, and he told me, he gave me some, I asked for it. I asked for some advice. And one of the things that he mentioned to me was, you know, that one of your jobs as mayor is water. And you can spend all of your time on that. And that is certainly the case. It's kind of like a whole nother job, but glad to do it. There's nothing more important to be working on for our community in this region. So thank you all for your continued support of the Ute Pipeline project. Future agenda items to discuss. I'll check with the manager, the assistant manager, Ms. Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. We have the biennial agreement with the Main Street program and then their contract. We have Juneteenth, the Water Policy Advisory Committee vacancy. Still looking for a District 2 Public Works Committee person. And then we have a couple of keys to the city, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other future agenda items to mention, Commissioners? Okay, very well. We'll move on to announcement of date, time, and place of city board and commission meetings. The Civil Aviation Board will meet at 5:30 on Tuesday, the 7th, here in the North Annex. Planning and Zoning Commission will meet at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, the 8th, here in this room. The Civic Center Policy Committee will meet at 3 p.m. on Tuesday, June 14th, and our next City Commission meeting is at 5:15 on June 16th. With that, we are adjourned.